What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video we're going to go over adding a image to our locations that we search using the Google Places API. So we're continuing on with that. Let me show you what it's going to look like when it's done. So back in our app, this is an empty new user. If we search a location, you'll see we removed the images on the right hand side here, and the reason for that is strictly cost. It's actually a bit more expensive to add an image on all of these because you have to make an additional API request each time that you go through. So we're not going to have those here, but if you do click on a location, you'll see we do get the image loaded in there. And the great part of this is it's still part of our session that we set up in the last video. So that right there, all of that searching that we just saw and clicking into this is going to cost us only the cost of one session. So that's pretty cool. All right, let's get started. All right, so open up the location view file, and this again is this page right here. Let's just quickly remove the column here with that placeholder. And once we get rid of that, you'll see our results. This will get you what you want. And then when you click on one, then we want to actually display that image. And actually instead, this is now the date view. Instead of having that be on the side there as it is now, I'm actually gonna remove this as well. And we're going to place the image just above this container for now. But first we need to get the image. So back in the location view, we're actually going to get our image when we select one of these, but we're going to set it up the process to get it when we're making the API call. So we have this function get location results, and this is called every time our data is changed here. So the get location results already is returning for us these predictions, and the predictions are really what we're just filling our results with. So the predictions data actually already has what we need, which is the place ID. So if you want to see it, you can actually just print this out. We could print out our predictions. Then when we run this, you'll see as we type, we're getting these predictions printed out. And what we're interested in now is this place ID, which you can see right here, the place ID. So it's just pretty much looks like a random string. So we want to actually save this place ID so that we can use it later to get the details for this specific place. So we can get the place ID right here inside this loop where we're looping through each of our predictions. Just add another string variable, and we'll call this the place ID. That's going to equal our predictions, so very similar to above for the description. It's going to equal that, but it's going to take the place ID in that form. So now we have this place ID here, and we actually want to save that to our object that we want to save that to our place object. So right now we can add it in here, and that's going to cause an error. The reason for that is because our place object does not have a field for the place ID. So go to our place model and just go ahead and add one. And we'll also do it when we instantiate it. All right, then back in our location view, you can see the place ID is set there. So at this point now, when we're running it, we actually are saving the place ID, or at least we have access to the place ID for when we click this. So you can see we're getting a bunch of errors down here, and that's because our default data up here does not have place IDs. So I'm just going to actually remove that. And then initially we just won't have any default data, which is fine. We can add that in later once we know some place IDs. All right, so now that we're saving our place ID for each of our prediction results, let's go ahead and in the button on our on tap down here. All right, so this is going to work in two steps. Now that we have access to that place ID, we're going to use it to get the place's details for that location we chose. And then once we have those places details, we can actually get the photo reference, and that photo reference is what we'll use to display the image. So it sounds a bit confusing right now, but as we go, I think you'll see it's actually quite simple. So up here after the get location results, let's just create a new function, which is what we're going to call when we tap this, when we tap the location that we're choosing. Let's call it get location photo ref. And this is going to take that place ID. Now this function, we actually are going to want to return a string value. And the string value is going to be a future though. And that again is because this is going to be a asynchronous function that is calling an API. All right, so this get location photo ref, we want to actually be returning, and this is the Google documentation for this, to get the places details. So you can see this is pretty much the string we're going to want to use, and then there's a few other parameters we can add to it, and one of them is this place ID is required. The key is also required, which is your API key. And going down, you can see some optional parameters. One of them is the session token, which we're going to add in. And then the fields here, you can use these fields to get specific types of data back. So if you look under the basic data, one of them is the photo. So that's actually what we're going to use. And if you wanted any of this other information, you could add that in to the under the fields parameter. So let me actually just write this out real quick. All right, so this request here is again that Google places details request, and we passed in those parameters for the place ID, which is the one passed into this function. The fields, I only added the photo because that's all I'm interested in right now. And then key is that places API key. Again, that's set down in this credentials.dart file, so you should have that if you don't. And then the session token is going to be that session token that we set up in the last episode. And just real quick, that session token is the same session token that we're using for the autocomplete. So autocomplete includes in one session one place's details. So that's kind of why we're not using the images on our results anymore, because we can use this same session to get just the one image that we're interested in, and then use that one image throughout the rest of the app. All right, we want to make that request and save the response. So the response will be of type response, and this can be the place details. And this is going to be where we use our await, because this is going to be the actual call to the API. Again, we'll use Dio, which we set up in the last probably a few episodes ago. But this is what will let us make a get request. So there we go. And then we need to just pass this string to our get request. So we're pretty much just going to get this string we defined up here. All right. That looks good. Now we can use this response to actually get that photo reference. So right now, if we print the response, which is this place's details, we'll be able to see how the response is structured, and then kind of dig into it and just get the actual photo reference that we want. So let's go ahead and call this function down below where we'll be calling it. And this is going to be called, again, that's on the on tap, this function, and it's actually going to take the places list at the index. So it's going to take the place list at the index, which is going to represent the result in our list of results. And then we want that place ID, which we saved initially in the beginning of this. And this will work, but we want to actually save this photo reference because we're going to pass this into the next view. So save it as a string, and the photo reference. And then this is actually going to need to be asynchronous because this is an asynchronous function. So add async here, or actually add async up here, and then add await here. All right, so now if we save and run this, and we click on one of these, you should be able to see the results that are given to us from the places results. So we can actually remove the print statement. All right, so we have this places details and we want to get just the photo reference. So actually if you copy all of this, which is our full places details, and I'm just gonna open up a text editor and paste this all in here so we kind of read it a little bit easier. If you start hitting enter on some of these, you'll start to see kind of the structure of this data. All right, this I just kind of broke it up so it's a little bit easier to read. But basically what we want to take here is this photo reference. So you can see that this is inside results and then photos, and it's, since this is an array, it's our first photo, and then it's the photo reference within our first photo object. Because this array could have, in theory, if there were multiple photos, it could be something like this, right? But we just want this one initial photo reference. So to write that out, and I'll just do it right here since we're looking at it, it's going to be this places details is what this object is. So it's going to be that places details, and it's actually, we need to use data on that. And this I am writing, this is just Flutter code. The places details of data will allow us to access this whole object right here. And then now we can just start digging into it. So we want the results again, results here. And then we're going to go into the photos. And this is really just parsing out this, this data here. And then we want, again, since this is an array, we're going to need to take the first element in it. And then now that gets us inside of this block. And then we can take the actual photo reference right here. All right, so just take this line here, and this is going to be our actual photo reference. So then back in our get location, and actually let's capitalize that L. That get location photo reference, just return what we just copied. And then now down where we were called get location photo reference, this photo reference actually should just be that photo reference, so we can print it for now and make sure it's working. So go ahead and save and run that. All right, so if we click on one of these, we should see printed out. Yeah, right here is our photo reference. So that's great. Now that we have our photo reference, we actually want to go ahead and save this as part of our trip and then pass it over into our next date view. So we can remove printing that for now, and we can, to actually add this as part of our trip, we're going to need to update our trip model. We can add another string, which would be the photo reference. And that's really the photo reference of this trip. And then we don't need to add it here, but we will add it to Firebase. So go ahead and add photo reference. And then I don't think we're going to pull that data from Firebase, so we don't need to update this one yet. So now back in our location view, when we're after our on tap here, we're going to also update our widget, our trip widget, with the photo reference, and that's going to equal the all right, this should be lowercase and lowercase. All right, and our photo reference is going to just equal this photo reference. All right, so this line right here is now basically saying that our trip object is updated with our photo reference. So over in our date view, which is the next page that we go to when we click this, we now have that variable here on our trip object. So we can use that to basically pull the image from the Google Photos. So very pretty simple here how this works. You basically just use the place photo, and then within this you just give it the key, which is the API key, the photo reference, which is what we just saved, and the dimensions, max, width, and height. And that's actually it. So this will be pretty quick to code out. So in the date view, let's close out of those. In the date view here, let's just add a little function called getImage, and we'll put that above our build here. And it's gonna, we actually want this to return an image for us, and then we'll have that image, we'll place that image right into our container down here within our scaffold. So let's have this function return an image, and we're gonna call it getImage. And then it's going to take one parameter, which will be that photo reference. And then this, we're basically just going to be building up exactly what we saw here. We're going to be building up this API request and getting that image. So first thing we need is the base URL. All right, and then we can define the max height and width. All right, and then for the key, it's just our API key. So we actually don't need to define that here because we already have it saved. And now we can just get the URL, which will be what we use to make the request. And that's going to equal a combination of all of the. All right, so our URL here is going to be, again, that base URL. And then we're going to add these parameters. So we're going to have the max width and the max height. And then we're going to have the photo reference, which is just that photo reference that's passed in. And then the key is that places API key. You can see this is causing an error, and that's probably because I'm not importing the credential file. So there's that. That looks good. We just need a semicolon at the end. And then now that we have this URL, we can actually get an image from this URL, because this URL will return an image from Google. So we're going to return that image as an image. A network image is basically how you do it when your source is a URL. So this should return an image for us. Now we can just put this get image in the column here, and we'll do it right above the build select details. So right above that box that we have there, let's just go ahead and put this image here. And this is going to take, again, that parameter, which is the widget, that trip widget, and then it's going to be that photo reference. So if we save this, you'll see immediately an image will pop up, and that's because we already have the photo reference here, and it is an image of New Orleans. So if you go back and click on a different one, like New York, you'll see we get an image of New York. Beautiful. So the last step to do here would be actually to save this image ID into Firebase. And the reason for that is because we're probably going to want to display this image in a different location in our app, not just on this page. So if we have that photo reference, we can pretty much just call a function, pretty much this exact function, and give it just the photo reference, and we won't need to search it by places details and all of that. So where we're uploading to Firebase, just go ahead and find, which I believe is our summary view, find where we are doing the upload, which is on our on-pressed. We're, let's see, we're adding, oh, okay, it's actually already going to happen automatically because we updated the trip right here, and we updated the trip right here, this to JSON on our trip model, and this is what we're using to upload to Firebase. So since we have this here, it's going to get uploaded to Firebase. All right, great. So the app is really starting to take some shape here. We're getting a nice image with each location. And as you can see, this image is changing when we change the location. So the next steps is definitely going to be adding some style to this. But for now, we do have all of the data and it's being saved, which is great. And yeah, overall, this is definitely good progress on the app. All right, that's going to be it for this video. Ciao for now.